Hey guys, welcome back. This is one of my duplexes downtown on one of the streets that I had flipped the entire street for, sold off the rest, but I decided to keep this one because it had to get the airship rights sold for the billboard for more than what I paid for this property. So it's basically like I got a free and clear property. And then you pull the equity out and you do other stuff. Problem was, the contractors that I hired to do this property and to do the whole street actually were not good contractors. They screwed me big time. Unfortunately for the city, they didn't catch on until it was too late, but they absolutely raped me on this property. And so what I can tell you in summary is that the strike force team found out that not all the permits were pulled properly for the entire development on the street. So this house that I still hold, they decided to lock it up. So one of my tenants that was living here had no electricity. They shut it off on them. So I tried to call CPS and get the electricity turned back on. They said, no, we can't do that. It's shut down by the city. So I call the city and I go down and speak with the strike force guys, and they told me, well, it's a safety issue because you didn't pull permits on the electrical, blah, 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 blah. Well, I had to move my tenant out, put him in a temporary living, and I thought that this would be fixed and cleaned up, and I did everything the city told me to. Electricians came in, updated everything, fixed everything. We got green tagged, everything permitted properly and passed inspection, final, done. And I said, okay, well, the electrical tag that you put on, you gotta lift it now because there's no safety issue. We got a green pass. They got all upset because they didn't go through the strike team guys. So the electrician just got a pass without getting strike team involved. And so the strike team sergeant got upset about that, and he decided, well, no, now we gotta do plumbing. Well, how are you gonna keep electrical shut off on me when you said the electrical was unsafe? What does it have to do with plumbing? Unlock the electrical so I can have tenants put in place. And they said, no, we're not gonna do that. So I had to let go of that tenant and wound up losing a couple $1,000s. And now we are sitting on this house almost 1 year later, and just contractor after contractor has gone down to the city, got the permit. Before they start working, they quit. So after that's happened to me about 3 or 4 times, I contacted the inspector. I went down with the strike team guys again. I said, what is going on? All of them are telling me that you guys are giving them the runaround, and that's why they're quitting. So I can't even find a contractor to come in and finish the job like you want because you keep giving them shit. Well, long story short, I finally actually had to sue personally the strike team people involved, the inspectors involved, and then on top of that, sue the city. That created some movement. And because they are personally attacking me, they're creating a scenario where I am losing money. I'm losing every month. My business is being hurt because of the city not doing what they're supposed to do, and because of the officials that are in power overstepping their boundaries. So here we are in one of my units, and they're finishing all of this out. This was actually moved by one of the tenants, so we actually have to move this back. This is where the utilities will actually be, and then there's the rear patio back here. And then that's a part of the bedroom, which if you see, you've got your closet here, but then you also have another main closet here. So dual closets, and then you have your master bath and shower. So as you can see, they had to open up all the walls and they had to expose all the plumbing. Then they had to get underneath, rip all of the floor out, and they had to get underneath and redo all of the entire plumbing around the entire house. So if you come out here, you've got your living space. This is basically your dining and living all in one. And then you've got your kitchen. So very small but practical 1-bedroom unit. Finally finishing it up, and we should be done here probably by the end of the month. Another thing that I didn't talk about was when we were in the middle of all of this process, the city did something that they weren't supposed to do. They got so upset about the plumbing situation and electrical situation that they came in and they broke open my water heating housings. Of course, I can't prove it, but all the situations and the coincidence is just too unreal for it to not be someone from the strike team. They came in and broke the housing open so they can see my plumbing, expose the water heater, and they can write up as much as that they can see wrong as possible. They tried to get me for structural permitting, but we didn't change any of the structure. We didn't do any of that stuff. All we did was update the plumbing and electrical and sheetrock and paint and everything else that you don't really need a permit for. We didn't pull proper permitting for the electrical and plumbing. That was our fault, but we made good on that. We fixed it. And so from here on out, they should release us from the overall permitting issue and release us from the bind on the CPS. But the problem with all of that work, all the time that we've had this empty, is we've got vagrants that come into this neighborhood and they look in the windows. And when ex-tenants break your blinds and they leave exposures, people can see in through that and they can see, oh, nobody lives here. What do? Kick in the door. So they broke in the door, they stole my AC unit and created some damage. Luckily, they didn't steal anything else. And then when you hire a contractor, so I hired this last contractor who's making it right, fixing it, and I'm working with him. But here's what happens. It's just like when you take your car into a car mechanic. You didn't have brake problems before you took your car in. All of a sudden you've got brake problems. So who are you going to go back to fix it? Oh, well, we also noticed that you got transmission issues too, so we might as well throw that in the budget. That happens everywhere you go. So for instance, we did not have, and I have the utility bills pulled up for the past 6 months. We didn't ever have any water issues. Water was always $60, $70 a month. All of a sudden, I hire this new contractor and a new plumber to come out to fix it. All of a sudden, my utility bill jumps up to $500, $600. And they say they caught a leak underneath the house. Well, that's very coincidental, being the fact that I just called you out, and after I called you out, the price of my utilities skyrockets. So on top of that, I also hired the crew to come in, and the crew came in and did all the plumbing, but then all of a sudden, 4 years of owning this property and even having that water heater housing literally open for everyone to see that there's a water heater exposed in there, nobody ever stole anything. All of a sudden, this crew comes in and they do all this. The next day, my water heater's stolen. So another red flag. So you need to watch who you're hiring. You need to pay attention, and you need to have damages written into your contracts, which we did. Fortunately, when I build out a contract and I have a scope of work, I put in there's a permissible that says you are in charge of security for anything that's negligible. For instance, if you just left a water heater housing open and exposed, that's negligence on your part. You were supposed to secure the doors, secure everything. Now, if they would have kicked it in or broken it in some way, then that wouldn't be negligible. You secured it, they had to break it to get into it. But there was nothing broken, which told me you didn't secure it properly. Because of that, those damages are your responsibility. And of course, contractors are not gonna like that. But you know what? As a flipper, as a business owner, you need to stand by your guns, and you just hold these contractors and any city officials and anybody else accountable for their work. You're paying them a certain price. You need to set those expectations and be the hammer when they break them. All right, guys, that's it for me. Take care. I'll see you on the next one.